Hi guys, welcome back to Raymore Repair. This is our next project. This is a 2002 Honda XR70. This thing has been running around in my family since it was new. Been through several kids, and we're going to do the justice it deserves and work our way through it. Kind of refresh things. We'll do the forks, the steering stem bearings, carburetor, tune up the engine on it, and kind of run through a bunch of stuff on it. It's had a lot of neglect and a lot of riding over the years, so we're going to do our best to correct some of that. So join me as we head into this XR70. We're going to start by pulling some of the body work off here. Let's pull the side covers and the seat, rear fender off. Got two other bolts on the other side, same bolts. I don't think these rivets have been out of here since this bike was new. There we go. Then these just slide backwards off like that. These have a little tab back here that slides onto there. Two bolts for the gas tank. Going to have a different battery. And magically, it works again. Take those two out. We got a fuel line to get off. Like so. Get the vintage line loose there. Let's go ahead and pull the air filter off this thing and see what we got there. Well, it's none too clean again. Still has the baffle of the backfire screen in it. This isn't too bad. Like I say, the other one in it last time, it was just falling apart. And you can see this one's kind of peeling up a little bit. See if I can get this silly thing to focus on it here. You can see the foam starting to separate a little bit there. Even though it looks clean, it needs to be replaced because it's starting to break down. So you can see through there. I'm a little suspicious what the steering stem bearings look like on this thing. They've never been serviced. I'm certain they've never been serviced. There we go. There's the number plate off this sweetheart. All right, I think we'll go ahead and drop the front end off this thing. We've only got one wire and one cable because the throttle cable is already off of it. And then we'll get this thing dropped off here. We're just going to chase the wire back that goes to the kill switch instead of removing it from the handlebar. Well, that was awesome. That just broke off, so I guess we'll move it to this end. The big wire tie down there on the frame, the little tab to get it loose just broke off of it. It'll stay on there, but if I try to take it off, it'll be the end of that one. We'll move the brake cable. We'll line up our grooves. There we go. Not a big deal, just a deal. run to the steering stop. Here in just a second, we'll get our first look at this top bearing and see if this is worth pursuing or not. Let me show you what we got here. This is the bearing, the top bearing of this thing. It's in a plastic cage. It's just a ball bearing in a plastic cage. It's dry, but it doesn't look too bad. This is the upper race, or outer race, I guess you would call it. And where the balls run, it looks pretty good as well. Now, it needs a lot of lube. We can take care of that. And the bottom race doesn't look too bad either. So that's what we'll do. We'll get this thing up there. We'll drop this through the forks out of this thing and take care of the bearings. We'll lube them up, clean them up, lube them up, get it ready to ride for, see, this is an 02, so it's been out there for 18 years. That's amazing. My, how time flies. And get this thing ready to go again. I did not put the bearing back in. I'm just setting this up to hold the front end while I get a jack under it. I'll bring you back when I got it ready. Front end feels pretty good. Let's see, let's just stick all this back with the wheel. I'm going to go ahead and drop the forks down. We just got to loosen these bolts. The top's already loose, so it's just a matter of loosening those up and popping the forks out. This bike comes apart incredibly easy. All right, there's the forks out. I think I got you in focus now. Here's our bottom bearings, and they're the same way. They look pretty good. They're just dry. As my dad would say, drier than a popcorn fart. We'll clean all that up, lube them up, and put that together. The good news is we don't need any parts for that stuff. Let's go ahead and adjust the valves in this sweetheart. Tell you what, we'll do this by the timing marks. I typically don't, but we will this time. So we're going to move to the other side and set up the timing marks. Take our valve covers off. All right, grabbed an 8mm socket. That something has gotten wound up around the front sprocket. Looks like baler string, hay string. That's what I would guess it is. It's a lot of it though. Focus. There we go. Top dead center marks right here, and it's lining up with this right here. That pointer, and then that carries on to the inside. The valve clearance spec on this engine is 0.05 millimeter, or for the metrically challenged, that's 2,000ths of an inch. And I do believe our intake valve is tight. Find the right wrenches and we'll adjust it. All right, this valve's a little tight. This takes a 9 millimeter wrench to crack this nut loose. And I don't have the right tool here, so we're just gonna do it with a pair of needle nose pliers, because chances are you wouldn't have the right tool either. That's pretty stinking good right about there. The trick is going to be to get that nut lock down without moving this stuff around. As the nut locks down, it pulls the threads as they bind, and it can cause your valve clearance to change. I guess I should say it most definitely causes your valve clearance to change. Like now we're a little loose, where a while ago we were just about right. So we'll tighten this up just a touch. Loosen the nut, tighten the adjuster just a touch, tighten the nut back down. See what we got. That's better. The gauge is dragging in and out. That's pretty stinking good right there. All right, I'm going to adjust the bottom ones down here, the intake, or I'm sorry, the exhaust valve. And it's a little loose, so we're going to do the same thing we just did on the other one. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm just going to do it. It's the same process that it is with the intakes, like so. Once again, these will have a torque spec, but I can tell you, once they touch down, don't tighten them a lot more than that. If you do, it'll crack these caps right where that O-ring sets. And then you'll have a leaker, and you'll need to get a cap. Alrighty, let's pull the countershaft sprocket off. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that. Nice polished sprocket. And just an absolute ton of crud. To give you an idea, this isn't a spacer. This is just more of that string all wrapped up in here and melted down. And that's more of the same. That is part of our seal in the middle of that. And you can see it's gone, and you can actually see the spring that used to hold the tension on the lip of the seal in there. So yeah. That's a lot of stuff wrapped up in there. Wow. Well, we're going to clean out our steering stem bearings. I've already cleaned up the races, but we need to clean out the ball portion. We're just going to put some contact cleaner on it and blow them out with some compressed air very gently. These are balls that are in a plastic cage, so we don't want to hit it with much. Just enough to clean the junk out of it. There's one of them. All right, we're just going to pack these with some grease. We're just going to spread some grease around and get all the balls covered. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. We just want to make sure everything is covered, and then we'll install. We're going to pack just a little bit of grease into our bearing race. Like I say, I got these cleaned up, but I just want to make sure that everywhere those balls set, this has got some on it. Just like that, it'll lead just fine. Wipe up our excess here. Take our bearing and just set it right in there like that. That'll do the top. Then we'll do the same thing on the bottom. This is the bottom of the triple tree. This is where the lowest steering stem bearing is going to go. This has a seal on it too. I want to make sure I have grease on that seal as well. This bearing will just set over there like that. Then this thing just sits in here. The bottom bearing on it and the top one, such as that. Then our other race goes in there like that. In this unit, there really isn't a seal in the top of this. It just kind of shields it with this plastic shield and nut. I need to put the triple clamp on. Then we got a washer. Then a lock and then a nut. Now I don't want to tighten this nut down until I slide my forks in place. Now this is our left one. It's got the brake stay on it. That's the difference between them. Otherwise, there's no difference in function or anything else. So. I don't want to tighten these down tight. I just want to barely pinch it. And then we'll tighten the top ones, these 14s down first, and that'll set the depth for our fork. So far, so good. When you're reinstalling your air filter, we got the air filter clean and got this mounted on here, nothing big there. But this ground wire must be hooked up or this thing will not run. So we'll put that under the air filter bolt. Grab our T-handle. Tighten that baby down. All right, we're going to pull this clutch cover off and see what our spin and our oil filter looks like. A little tag at that. Get that rag. So, all right, here's our clutch arm right here. That comes around and goes in this. This rubs against these balls in here and pushes this in, and that makes the clutch work. So this comes out kind of like this. Thing to watch for is this is an oil feed to the crankshaft. You want to make sure that's in there. The spring's in there and that cap's on there. And that goes for pretty much any of these little Hondas, the 50s and 70s anyway. Next, we're going to take this little cap off the end of the clutch here. There we go. Now what we're looking for is this is actually like an oil filter. Let me zoom you in here just a touch and I'll explain you what I'm talking about. This, excuse me, oil is spread from the oil pump and it comes into this cover right here. It comes into the cover here, comes down through here through this galley, comes out through here, goes into this little deal, and feeds the end of the crankshaft. This larger area in here, the crankshaft is fed through this hole right here in the middle. And this larger area allows for the oil to be spun and the impurities in the oil get spun out of it. And what I'm talking about is this crud right here. This is all the junk out of the oil that's been pushed out. And this works like a sling type oil filter. Some old tractors and some heavy equipment have used sling type filters back in the day, and it's an effective system. The only problem is it's a little tough to clean on these. Now I remember my dad had an old Polaris tractor, and it had a spin type oil filter, and it actually had a cartridge, and it spun inside of it and slung the impurities out. But this just uses the crankshaft, the revolutions of the crankshaft, to force the junk out of the oil and into the edges of this chamber. It's in here real quick. You can see there's a little sparkliness to it, and it's just junk that's out of the oil. That's what it is, like you'd normally find inside of an oil filter. One more thing we need to check while we have the side cover off and cleaning out all this oil stuff is there is an oil screen right down here. And this is the oil pickup screen for the oil pump. And we will take some contact cleaner and clean this sweetheart out. And then put it back in, just like that. We'll line up our new gasket, figure out exactly where this needs to go. Yep, looks good to me. And we'll tighten those back up about like they were. This arm that goes on here and points directly at the crankshaft. If you're wondering how that is indexed, that's how it goes, just like that. Let's cut underneath the edge of it a bit. So we'll slide all this up, kind of get it kind of in place. Then we're going to take our gasket or our cover, just slide it on over here and kind of love all this into place. Because if it falls down, you got to start all over again. That'll do. This will go on about like that. Give it a tappy tap tap. Yeah, that's probably about right. Make sure we don't get our wires in there. All right, there we go. So, again, like here, goes in here. Got that on. This one goes on. That one. Also, and my local and no, it's not critical, it's okay. So it's 6 right here. I just found out now. Now second. There we go. There's a tab here, not the tank. Okay, screw it back here. Oh, I got some of it. That's like like that. Just like we're going to that. Just like that. Key handle. By far my favorite working on motorcycle tool is the key handles. This thing holds just under a quart of oil, or about 3/4 of a quart. So we don't want to go crazy. We just want to put enough in it. We can check it, make sure we're about right, then adjust. But it's a lot easier to add a little bit more than it is to take a little bit out. So we're going to come up just shy and see where we're at. And it looks like we're right here at the mark. So, pretty swell guess. Well, there you go, guys. Our XR70 is done as far as the service goes on it. We are going to put some fork seals in this thing. That'll be the next video coming up. But I appreciate you watching and tuning in. Thanks a lot.